Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody, and thanks for joining. This is the Testmo Product Roadmap webinar for April 2026, and we've got a lot to cover today. Things that are shipping right now, things that are coming very soon, and a look at where we're heading overall, and in particular with AI. So welcome everybody, and I'll get right into it. For those of you I haven't met before, my name's Simon Knight. I'm the product manager at Testmo. My job is basically to figure out what we should build, in what order, and why, and then to make sure that what we build actually makes your lives easier. I spend a lot of time talking to customers, reading feedback, digging through support tickets, and generally trying to understand what's slowing teams down or getting in the way of their work. So if you've ever sent us a feature request or a support ticket, then there's a good chance I've read it. I'm really glad you're here today. These webinars are one of the best ways that I get to talk directly with people using Testmo. So please do feel free to make liberal use of the chat console that hopefully you all can see via Zoom, and also of the Q&A at the end. Here's what we're going to cover today. So we'll start off with a quick recap of what we've delivered over the course of the past year. There's been quite a lot, and I think it's worth just taking a few moments to reflect on what that's looked like before we dive into what's next. We'll also talk about where we are now, what's changing in the industry, particularly around AI and what that means for QA teams. And I'll share some findings from work that we've been doing internally on this because it's directly shaping our roadmap. After that, we'll look at the roadmap itself. I'll provide you with an overview, and then we'll go a little bit deeper on a couple of things that are shipping either right now or very close. So notifications and tagging for Testmo, and the Testmo for Jira app update. Additionally, we will cover off the results of our poll, which hopefully you can see on your Zoom screens right now, requesting information about where you go to find information about best practices, QA tools and strategies, and industry trends. So we'll share the results of the poll at the end as well, alongside hopefully leaving some time for Q&A. So with all that said, I will get into the content proper with a brief recap to start. So over the course of 2025, what did we ship? Well, one of the biggest things was the reporting center. This was a substantial piece of work for the Testmo team, and something that a lot of our customers had been asking for. Before this, reporting in Testmo was functional but limited. You could get data out, but it required effort, and the insights weren't always easy to surface to your stakeholders. The reporting center changed that. We now have 4 dedicated reports: requirements, coverage, and traceability, probably the most requested and especially important report for teams with, for example, compliance needs. So it lets you see how well your test cases cover your requirements, and it traces results back to the original issues. The second report we delivered was the milestone summary and metrics report, which provides a full picture of your project milestones, including test run, automation progress, and test case results. So that's something that you can take to a stakeholder or a sprint review without having to pull data from lots of different places. We also delivered an automation metrics report designed to help you track and demonstrate the value of your automation investment over time. So not just how many tests passed, but what does our automation posture look like, and what trends can we see? Excuse me. And then fourthly, we delivered the team testing workload report. So you can see who's working on what, spot bottlenecks, and balance assignments across your team. So all that to say, if you haven't spent time in the reporting center yet, it's well worth exploring. Alongside that, we have been making significant progress on the Testmo API. So we launched CRUD test case management endpoints in October 2025, attachments, cases, folders. And then in January 2026, we added issues and connections endpoints. And in March, we expanded coverage across projects, fields, and automation related functionality. We're not done yet. You can see on the slide on the sort of right-hand side that results, runs, and milestones are still to come. And we're viewing the API for Testmo as a long-term investment. The more of Testmo you can access programmatically, the more you can automate your own workflows, build integrations, and as we'll talk about in a little while, connect your AI tools to Testmo in meaningful ways. So continuing to build upon the Testmo API footprint is going to be kind of foundational for a lot of what's coming down the pipe. The third major release in 2025 was our AI test case generation capability, Testmo AI. So this is native to Testmo. It's not like a bolt-on or a third-party integration. The workflow is basically you provide your requirements as an input, and then Testmo uses those to generate real test cases that live in your repository. You run the tests, and then you analyze the results with clear traceability back to those original requirements. That loop that you can see here on the right, and hopefully my cursor as well, which I'm kind of wiggling around, but I'm not entirely sure whether you can see or not. But anyway, that loop, requirements to test cases, to execution, to coverage and reporting, is what we mean when we talk about a unified test management platform. So the AI piece isn't there to replace the thinking that your QA team does. It's there to accelerate it, so your team spends less time writing boilerplate test cases and more time on things that actually require human judgment. So thank you, Zhao, who's working alongside me in the background, for confirming that you can see my cursor. That gives me a little bit of additional confidence. And again, gesturing with my cursor on this diagram here on the slide, it illustrates what we've tried to accomplish with this release, a continuous loop, a virtuous loop with AI supporting each stage of it rather than, trying to replace any of them. Beyond the product itself, and again, something that Zhao here in the background has have been heavily invested in, is education and content. So we released 24 videos on YouTube, a mix of how-to content covering specific Testmo features and our How They Test series. How they test is something that we're particularly proud of, I think. It's a series of interviews with real QA practitioners, engineers, leads, managers, folk like that, talking about how their teams work and what's changed for them, what works and what doesn't. Genuinely interesting content about the craft of testing. So, not just marketing, genuinely useful and interesting content, which if you haven't checked out yet, I strongly recommend you do so. And if you'd be interested in being featured in an episode yourself, we'd love to hear from you, and I'll come back to that at the end. And just as a headline number, we grew to over 2,000 customers in 2025. 2025. So lots of names here that you may recognize: Siemens, Yamaha, Swimbird, Instabase, Flashbulb Games. Teams are across a wide range of industries and sizes: gaming studios, enterprise software companies, SaaS businesses, and e-commerce. What they all have in common is that they all care about quality, and they want a tool that keeps pace with how their teams actually work. We are genuinely proud of that growth. And obviously, with more people depending on Testmo for the quality of their products, obviously means we need to take responsibility to keep improving Testmo. And that's what the rest of this webinar is going to be all about. So, where are we now? What's the kind of context that we're building against? Well, this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about AI, because it's difficult to talk about QA in 2026 without talking about AI. And I don't want to I don't want to overhype the AI framing, because I think you see a lot of that everywhere else. There's a lot of AI noise right now. I see a lot of demos that look impressive, but possibly don't survive contact with a real code base. So, what we've found, because at Testmo, as part of the sort of broader SEMBI group, we've spent the last 6 months or so, probably longer than that really, but certainly 6 months in earnest, doing real sort of hands-on investigation into how AI is changing development and QA workflows. So putting actual tools in the hands of our engineers, working with them on real code bases, and running real experiments during the courses of our own development cycles. And what we've found during the course of those experiments is kind of shaping everything that we build from here. So as I've sort of sought to illustrate on this slide a little bit, and summarizing some of the findings. Number one, AI doesn't necessarily reduce the work that you have to do. It just kind of moves it around. So effort shifts further left into requirements, into the quality of your specifications, into being very precise about what it is you actually want to build. So I think we're seeing that teams that invest in upfront effort into the quality of their specifications see real gains downstream. And if you kind of skip that step, then you end up in a garbage in, garbage out kind of situation, just a lot faster because of the AI tooling you're possibly now using. Following on from that, our sort of second major finding is that MCP is kind of the foundation for everything else. So a couple of our teams working sort of independently on completely different problems, both kind of arrived at the same architectural conclusion. Both of them concluded that the right foundation for AI native tooling is going to be a sort of shared model agnostic integration layer. You'd probably call that an MCP, a model context protocol. So we identified the same pattern, the same priority, despite the teams basically working on two completely different work streams. And we feel like that kind of convergence is clearly a signal that is worth paying some attention to. And hence MCP becomes a foundation for a lot of what comes on the Testmo roadmap. And our third sort of major finding is, building code is becoming very cheap, and that just creates a new set of problems. So a lot of teams are building pipelines off the back of their AI tooling, and we ourselves have built a similar pipeline. Teams are able now to build pipelines that take specifications and produce code, along with tests and along with validations and along with some reports about what's been built. And a lot of that work is being carried out largely without human intervention. There's usually humans in the loop at some stages, but a lot of that work is being carried out by your AI tooling. But the problem that then creates is that if building is cheap, how do you know what was built is actually what you asked for? So not just, does it compile or do the tests pass, but does it meet the intent of what you originally intended to build? Does it behave the way that you originally sort of described the specifications? So that question, conformance at scale, is the hard problem. And I don't think it's solved yet. And that's where we're focusing a lot of our effort. So what this means for QA is that the QA role is shifting. It's moving from executing test cases to kind of curating intelligence. And your existing test library, the accumulated knowledge about how your product behaves, becomes one of your most valuable inputs to that workflow of taking specifications and building something productizable from them, if you treat it that way. A lot of teams aren't treating it that way yet. What QA teams need is not just another automation tool. There are plenty of those. What they do need is tooling that helps them maintain pace with development, because it's getting much, much faster. And the gap between we wrote some code and we have a pull request is shrinking dramatically. QA teams cannot be the bottleneck. Testmo's job is to try and make sure they aren't. Hence, our mission statement. Our mission for 2026 is to empower small and growing teams with the best, fastest, most intuitive test management platform, whilst running to the future on AI quality ops. Bit of a work in progress, but hopefully the intent of that statement resonates with you. There's a couple of distinct commitments sort of embedded within it. So the first one, the best, fastest, most intuitive test management platform. That's the core Testmo product. It means we're not abandoning the fundamentals of the Testmo you've known and loved to date. Testmo will still need to be the best tool for managing test cases, running sessions, tracking test results, integrating with your issue trackers. Everything I just walked you through from 2025 sits in this kind of category, and that work continues. The second part, though, running to the future on AI quality ops. So there's a few things that sort of sit under that umbrella. Firstly, QA is entering a new era and we want to build for it. So the shift in how software gets built, the acceleration in development velocity that I was talking about on the previous slide, that's obviously real. The question is whether your testing process is able to move and keep pace with it. So we want to build out Testmo so that you can. The second item, model context protocol. I already spoke to this as well. So MCP is becoming a standard way that AI tools interact with software. And we are planning to build Testmo MCP support so that AI assistants, agents, and Copilot tools can interact directly with Testmo. So an AI agent, for example, will be able to query your test case repository, create test cases, check coverage, update results, all through that standard protocol that works with any AI tool your team chooses to use. Thirdly, Copilot and agentic working. So this is where the industry is heading. Agents that help prioritize which tests to run, which help to identify gaps in coverage, assess the impact of a code change on your test suite. We are building Testmo to be a first-class participant in that world. So on the right, you can see what coming soon looks like for Testmo. Things like, natural language interactions with Testmo, rapid project and test case creation, test case maintenance and test case updates, prioritization and selection, gap analysis, impact assessment, MCP and additional API endpoints that underpin and support these interactions with Testmo, and more besides. Each of these capabilities maps to specific agentic workflows that we are building towards. And they will all sit on top of or within the MCP foundation that we are currently building out to support them. So pretty exciting stuff there. Let me put all of that into the roadmap picture. So we structure our roadmap into 3 horizons: now, next, and later. Probably a lot of you are familiar with how that works. So the now column is what we're actively shipping at the moment. The main item here is notifications and tagging. I'm going to go into detail about what that looks like in a few moments, right after this slide. That is going live tomorrow for trials and the day after for all customers. So if you want to see it in action, pretty much straight after this webinar, you can. In the next column, we've got 3 things. The Testmo for Jira app update. So this is a significant one for our Jira users, and we'll spend a little bit of time on it today. In short, Atlassian is retiring the Connect platform that the current Testmo for Jira app runs on, and we've rebuilt it on their new Forge platform. So this is going to be mandatory for all customers using our Jira integration before the end of the year. The good news, the migration itself only takes a few minutes, and we've already published detailed documentation to try and help you make that as painless as possible. But I'll come back to that in a few moments, as I say. Improved automation linking. So this is a quality of life improvement for teams submitting automation results to Testmo. We're adding CLI tooling that makes it significantly easier to link your automation results to specific test cases. So if you're using the Testmo CLI today and the linking workflow feels kind of clunky, then this one's for you. Again, we've already published documentation around how we're expecting this to work. So I'd encourage you to go and take a look at that if you're interested. And then the Testmo MCP. So this is the sort of foundational AI layer I've been talking about in the previous couple of slides. We are building an MCP server that will allow AI tools, so Claude, Copilot, or anything else that supports the MCP protocol, to interact directly with Testmo. This is kind of a prerequisite for everything else on the AI side of the roadmap. So specifically AI Copilot, but other stuff that we may build out later as well. It's a little bit earlier stage than the first 2 next items, so these 2. But it's probably the most consequential thing that we are building right now, for the reasons that I've already described. Like I say, it is kind of earlier stage, but I've been playing around with the current implementation of this the last couple of days, and it's shaping up pretty well. So I expect you will see documentation and a version of this in your hands, hopefully before the end of this quarter. The later column is where we're heading next, later. Webhooks, one of our most consistently requested features. Outgoing webhooks will let you push Testmo events, so things like test run completions, result changes, milestone updates, to any external system. Things like Slack, custom dashboards, CI/CD pipelines, whatever you need. Webhooks will give you integration flexibility without us having to build each connection individually. You're in control. Improve search. We know that search in Testmo can be better, so it's on the list. And it's something that we take fairly seriously. Search is one of those features that when it's good, you don't even think about it. but when it's not, you kind of feel it every day. So definitely something that we want to improve upon. AI Copilot. So this is where the MCP Foundation and the agentic capabilities start coming together into more of a user-facing experience. So whereas MCP is kind of agent-facing, AI Copilot is more sort of UI user-facing. Things like test prioritization, gap analysis, impact assessment, information surfaced directly inside of Testmo. I'll provide more on the specifics of what some of that looks like as it develops. And please also note that AI Copilot is just a working title at present. The name will likely change. But watch out for it in future roadmap updates. We've also got new integrations planned. So we're always evaluating where to add new integration points. I'm not going to go into too many specifics here as priorities may change, but this is also an active area. And we expect to pick up integrations, for example, for Linear, Notion, and ClickUp, among others. And finally, modular test cases. So a more structural feature for teams that want to build reusable test case components so that you can compose test cases from building blocks rather than potentially duplicating content. So again, a bit later on the horizon, but something that we know matters to a lot of our customers. All right, what's shipping now? Notifications and tagging. So notifications and tagging is a set of collaboration features that we've been preparing to ship for a while, and I am genuinely excited to be talking about it as something that is landing this week, tomorrow, in fact. So the core capability of notifications and tagging is mentions, app mentions. You can tag a teammate in any rich text field in Testmo. Test case comments, run notes, session log notes, milestone notes, document notes, all of the rich text places in Testmo. And if you go into those places and type at and start typing a name, then you'll get a drop down of your project members. So you can see it here, typing at Graham or at GE opens up the drop down, and I can select a person from that drop down and they get tagged. When you mention someone, they receive a notification both in-app and via email, depending on preferences that can also be set. And we've built our notification infrastructure thoughtfully, which I'll show you in a moment. The first use case that this unlocks, and one that we heard about the most, is sort of requesting a review on a test case. So you've written a new test case, you want a senior QA engineer or a developer perhaps to look at it before it goes live. Whereas before that might have meant switching to some other tool like Slack or email. Now you can just tag them directly in the test case comments, right where the test case lives. We've improved the notification tray in Testmo, so hopefully you'll be familiar and aware that there's a bell icon on the Testmo menu bar. And when you've got unread notifications, you see a badge count. When you click on it, you get a list of what's been directed at you. The mentions slider at the top allows you to toggle it and see only notifications where somebody has explicitly called you out rather than general system events. So useful if you're in a busy project. For the full notification history, there's a dedicated notifications view in your profile area. And that's organized into 3 tabs. So you've got all, assigned, and mentioned. You can filter to unread only and mark things as read individually and click any notification to navigate directly to the item that triggered it. So no more hunting around. And mentions also come through as emails with a direct link to the exact place where the mention happened. So, one click and you're there. So just to kind of recap on the full list of use cases that this unlocks, you can now request a review on a test case. So the example that we started with, you can get notified when your teammates start a new test run. So useful for coordinating on testing workload. You can highlight an issue found in a test result by potentially looping in the developer responsible. You can share findings from an exploratory session with your wider team. You could flag failed tests in an automation run for an immediate follow-up by mentioning your colleagues in a comment on those tests. I could go on, but all of these are workflows that previously required stepping outside of Testmo into a separate tool. Now you can do it all inside of Testmo where your testing work actually lives. So just on the mentions and notifications, shipping dates, as I've mentioned, we are shipping the feature to new and existing trials tomorrow, the 22nd of April, and to all customers on the 23rd of April. So, coming very soon. If you're interested, you can take a look on our documentation site for the stuff that we've already published. I encourage you to keep an eye on the change log and the coming soon section generally, because we are publishing lots of information about new and upcoming features there. And as I say, the user tagging in Testmo documentation is currently in that area. So you're welcome to go and take a look at that. Next up, the Testmo for Jira app update. So this is slightly more of a technical section, just taking a look at how we're doing for time. I may skip a couple of slides here and just provide more of an overview. So as I mentioned, Atlassian has 2 platforms currently for their apps, Connect, which is the one that Testmo currently uses, and Forge, which is the newer platform. Connect is being retired, so we need everyone to move to Forge, basically. We've rebuilt our existing Testmo app using the new Forge platform, and we are going to be rolling it out very soon. What's changing under the hood is primarily around sort of authentication, communication protocols, and security. So focusing on the sort of material impact, most things stay the same. So all of your test data stays the same. There's nothing to export or migrate or re-import. Your data doesn't move anywhere. The marketplace listing stays the same. The core functionality stays the same. So your test results will still be surfaced in Jira. You'll still be able to see them in the context of your issues. You'll still be able to create Jira issues from Testmo. It's all the same. Same pricing and licensing, i.e. free. And you will still have access to the same support channels. So everything basically stays the same, except for two things. When you upgrade to the Forge app, the new Testmo for Jira app, your Jira administrator has to complete an explicit complete setup step after upgrading. It's literally a single button click, but if it's skipped, Testmo features won't work in Jira until it's done. So don't skip it. And number two, users will need to link their Testmo accounts explicitly from Jira via OAuth the first time they open a Testmo panel in Jira after the migration. Again, it only takes a minute. It's a one-time step, and after that, it's invisible, and the token auto refreshes. So a couple of gotchas to watch out for here, but aside from that, you should have exactly the same experience in the new app as you did in the previous one. So we've made a few adjustments to the create issue dialog as part of this change, but again, it's basically the same as what you had previously, arguably cleaner and more consistent with the rest of the Testmo experience. There's a whole migration flow documented in our documentation site currently. I'm not going to walk through this in detail during this webinar. I'd encourage you to take a look at the documentation on the site if you're interested in learning more about it. And I see that Zhao has shared the link in the chat for you to be able to do so. So if you want to know more about what the migration is actually going to look like, go and take a look at the documentation. So again, in terms of the timeline, we have a beta program open for registration now. So I'll share some more details about that at the end of the webinar. General availability for all customers is basically planned for this quarter. So calendar quarter 2 before the end of June in 2026. We'll be sending reminder communications to folk that haven't migrated to the new app, probably during Q3. And then there's kind of a hard deadline when Atlassian will end of life the current Connect platform, and they plan to do that before the end of this year. So keep an eye on our documentation site, keep an eye on the change log, keep an eye out for our communications. We would really prefer for you not to wait until December before you decide to upgrade your Testmo for Jira app. The migration is very quick, and doing it early obviously means you have time to get familiar with any changes well before they become mandatory, and you have time to ask questions if anything. unexpected comes up. So if you are interested in getting sort of an early preview of what all that looks like, then do sign up for the beta, and I'll talk about how you can do that in a few moments. Alrighty, so what are the next steps here? We're almost at the Q&A section, right on time. So before we get there, though, I just want to call out a few specific things. I'd love for you to consider doing after this webinar. Firstly, please volunteer for the MCP beta sign up. I've already signaled that this is going to be very important for us at Testmo, and hopefully very satisfying for our Testmo customers. If you're excited about the AI direction that we've talked about today, and want early access to it, then get in touch. Again, Zhao has shared a link for you to do so. We are currently working on building out the MCP for Testmo, but as I mentioned a while back, I expect that we'll be shipping a first iteration of it towards the end of June. So if you're interested in getting access to that, please follow the link, fill out the details, and we'll be in contact. Secondly, the Testmo for Jira beta. If you use our Jira integration and want to experience the new app version early, sign up for the beta. You get priority support during the migration, and the chance to give us feedback that helps us shape the final release. Again, follow the link. How they test interview series. If you're interested in being featured, talking about how your team approaches testing, what's changed, what works for you, we would love to hear from you. These are genuinely interesting conversations for us, and it's a great way to share your experience with the broader QA community. So 3 ways in which we would love to engage with you on the future Testmo roadmap and the How They Test interview series. Please use the link that Zhao has shared in the chat, or scan the QR code that we're displaying here, and fill out the form, and we will be in touch with you. Finally, well, actually, 2 further points. We would love to hear feedback about the roadmap. You know, everything I've shared today is kind of directionally committed, so stuff that we are building out and thinking about how to build out. A lot of it is not necessarily carved in stone, however. So if something I talked about today kind of resonates with you, tell us about it. If something's missing, tell us about that too. The best way to influence what we build is to tell us what matters to you. There's a chat window open. I'm always reachable via the support site or directly through the usual channels. So you can find me on LinkedIn, for example. But as of right now, you know, you have this Zoom chat. Please provide us any feedback that you have in the chat directly. And then we're thinking about where we put our energy in terms of community and content, where we show up and how we can be most useful to QA practitioners beyond just the product itself. So, you know, we're curious where you go to find information about that sort of stuff currently. So we've been running a poll. I mentioned that at the beginning of the webinar. Hopefully some of you all have responded to it. Zhao, can you confirm folk can actually see the results of the poll? I can see your you've shared it, but not sure whether everybody else can see it or not. It looks as though there's a strong turnout for Google search still, in any event, and that is closely followed by ChatGPT and Claude. So a lot of you are asking questions via AI, which is to be expected, I guess, in the sort of modern landscape. Reddit still has a decent following, and then YouTube, blogs, and academies. Great. So that's super useful information. Thank you to everybody who responded to the survey. That'll help us to produce content accordingly. Alrighty. With that, I think we can probably try and take a little bit of Q&A. We've got 9 minutes left to do so. So let's see what we can cover. Zhao, what have we got? Where should I be looking? It says I should open the Q&A panel. Ah, yes, here we go. Any specific questions to call out? Actually, there's only 3 open questions. So I'm just going to start from the top. With Testmo's, this one's from Liam. With Testmo's API, we can currently import test cases from outside the product. Do you think you'll open the API to create and manage runs and perhaps reporting? Yeah. Runs management definitely within the scope of stuff that we're looking at currently in support of our planned MCP. Reporting, I'm kind of on the fence around that one because I feel like once we ship the MCP, that's going to unlock a lot of reporting use cases for you using that new sort of interface. Not only via the sort of MCP directly in the context of, Claude or Codex or some other LLM tool, but also in our sort of Copilot implementation as well. So yeah, I think the answer to the runs question is yes, and perhaps reporting, I mean, basically yes as well. So hopefully that answers that question. The next one I got is from Alberto. I'm just going to keep going through these from the top as I see them. So we create one manual QA session per Jira ticket every cycle, and that has to be done by hand in Testmo. If session creation were available via API, so yes, that's probably something we'll build out as well. We could fully automate this. Create the session, submit, pass, fail, skip results into it, and attach it to the milestone automatically. Current workaround using automation runs with milestone ID works, but don't appear as proper manual sessions. Any plans on expanding the API capabilities? Yes. I mean, in order to sort of facilitate the kind of workflows we expect will be desirable in the context of an MCP interface, yeah, I mean, there's going to be substantial changes to the current API footprint in order to support those things. And our Copilot will basically build on top of those capabilities as well. So you're going to expect to see lots of new API endpoints and lots of improvements to existing API endpoints in the coming months in order to facilitate those kind of workflows. The next one, are Testmo jobs being updated to add parameters? We can trigger a job, but it's the same job every time. Can't config unless an admin takes care of it. Params would be useful, like branch name, tags, configurations. Maybe. Send us a feature request, I would suggest, Mark, via the support page, and we can look into that for you. Be specific in that feature request about what the needs are, and what it is you're trying to accomplish there. And yeah, we'll happily take a look into it. As you saw from the roadmap I presented earlier, though, it's not necessarily something that we've got planned in the immediate future. Sunil, using AI, can we develop test cases using the reference of some links like RFC, etc.? Not sure I really understand the question. I guess this may relate to the test case generation capability currently in Testmo, and whether there may be some improvements to how you're able to accomplish that, and what context you're able to provide in order to generate those test cases. In which case, the answer to that question is yes, you probably can expect improvements in the future. Exactly what those improvements will look like is still, I guess, to be determined a little bit, given the current focus on building out the MCP, and then building out more of a kind of co-pilot interface. I think it's fair to say at this stage that the co-pilot interface will probably be like how you generate test cases in the future, but we still need to kind of figure out what that's actually going to look like. So that's about as much as I can say about that right now. I have reached the end of the question list. If you have any further questions, please, let us know about those. I guess just to recap on the next steps, please volunteer for these things. Please use the link or the QR code. Sign up for the MCP beta. Sign up for the Testmo for Jira app update beta. And let us interview you for the How They Test series, so we can shine a spotlight on you and your team, and share your experiences with the QA community generally. Since I don't see any further questions coming in, I am just going to say thanks very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I hope you all got as much out of it as we did, and I guess see you at the next one. This webinar will have been recorded. You can check it out on YouTube. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe while you're there. Thanks very much, everybody.